Alrighty, BibTubes, let's see if Sky News shows us this interview with the guy that's wrote one of the letters.
Facing growing calls to rethink the UK's support for Israel following the deaths of 3 British aid workers in an Israeli military strike in Gaza on Monday. The open letter from the lawyers warns Mr Sunak that continued arms exports to Israel will put the UK in breach of international law. They say, quote, "We are concerned that the UK government is failing to discharge its international obligations. While we welcome the increasingly robust calls by your government for a cessation of fighting and the unobstructed entry to Gaza of humanitarian assistance, simultaneously to continue, to take 2 striking examples, the sale of weapons and weapons systems to Israel and to maintain threats of suspending UK aid to UNRWA falls significantly short of your government's obligations under international law." Well, I spoke to one of the signatories and asked him why he's backing the letter.
I'm committed to the idea of ensuring what I've really spent my life doing, which is...
Now, I'm a conspiracy dude, and I've been trying to get Sky News to replay the live interview. It won't allow me to do it because the guy mentions and says that Israel's committing genocide, and he's a lawyer. And the Sky News presenter has a meltdown.
Israel. What this roll call of leading figures from the legal profession,
and they've edited
made a number
it all
requests,
out.
like,
Surprise, surprise.
Letter, which really amounts to a legal opinion. They've talked about working effectively to find a
This
ceasefire.
They've
talked about
motherfucker, was he
restoring
born out
funding to
his
UNRWA,
fucking
the
nose
refugee
fan, he
agency
knows
for the
first?
UN. That funding was suspended by the UK after allegations were made about involvement with the October the 7th attacks and Hamas as yet unsubstantiated allegations. But I think the most current one is that one about suspending arms sales. It does feed into a row that has been going on for some time yet about the transparency with which the government is operating and whether it should put those legal judgments out into the open. Last month, Lord Cameron, the Foreign Secretary, did say a piece of work was going on. A legal judgment was being prepared, and that would determine whether export licences would continue.
Now, let's conduct a
now
experiment.
The Foreign Office simply says that
Sky
legal
News
advice regarding Israel is
DVR
constantly
thing on
kept
YouTube allow me to go back there.
Remains in the spotlight.
No problem.
Despite
Allow me to go there.
Infringe and devalue the rights of...
Well, allow me to go there. Not a fucking... Oh, it's Trump.
Deciding on their next steps.
Allow me to go there.
About public...
Allow me to go there.
Talking about...
Allow me to go there. And it does fuck up, but allows me to go there.
They're okay with it, things...
Thanks for joining us here.
By whatever method. Many still lie beneath the rubble. Tom Cheshire,
See
Sky
this
News.
bit right here.
More on Sky.
That's the object of the exercise. Well, otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it. So I don't see it as political with a big P. I see it as political with a small one, combined with moral.
So why is the UK, in your view, obliged to change its tactics here?
This is the genocide.
Well, we're obliged to because, again, at the end of the Second World War, there were moves to ensure, legally speaking and internationally, we didn't face the situation that was faced at the end of the war and during the last World War, Second World War, again. So provisions were put in place whereby, firstly, you can self-defend, which is used all the time. However, there's a limit to it. You can't obliterate somebody else altogether, especially a civilian population that has to be protected. And those people who got killed recently, 7 people providing aid, they're protected citizens. And therefore, it seems to me that there is a crime committed by other states. It's called erga omnes. In other words, international law has said you can't creep out of this because you haven't signed up to that, you haven't signed up to that. There's an international obligation on all of us to respect the law, and where there's something as bad as genocide, we should not only not commit it, but there's an obligation on the English government, all governments, to prevent it happening. Even if it's not happening on our shores, it's got to be stopped elsewhere, because we're one humanity. And I think at the moment this issue is on the screens every day, and people are united by a sense of humanity. The law has to step in and be respected.
But I'm right in saying, correct me if I'm wrong, that we don't know that genocide has happened? In fact, probably people...
Well, seems to me if we don't...
Right, listen and watch this presenter go into meltdown. Now remember, he's a talking head idiot, right? A talking head idiot reading off a teleprompter. So he's got the producer in his hair like that, because he mentioned the genocide word, which in this info war you can't. So that what happens, if you notice, the war of words is Hamas terrorists. What's the other one? Islamicists. That's a kind of new one that's getting propagated. You know, you just can't be you can't be a Muslim. You need to be an Islamicist. That means like you're like, maybe like a couple of cut off heads in your hand. That's an Islamicist. And you can't mention genocide. And then on the other side, Zionism. It's a lot of words, as well as a kinetic war in Gaza.
I don't know that it's happened at the moment. We never will. It seems to me it's crossed the threshold.
But forgive me.
I don't know that it's happened.
Probably people...
well, seems to me if we don't know that it's happened at the moment, we never will. It seems to me it's crossed the threshold.
But forgive me. You're a lawyer, and you said you want to
shut up.
Make sure that we do everything that's absolutely right. You can't just say, it seems to me, if we don't know it's happened now, we never will. I mean, surely something...
Why can't he say that? He's a lawyer, he's got an opinion, he's just wrote a letter to the thingy because he believes that genocide is happening. You just can't say that. Freedom! Apart from when you say this, that, or that, right? Freedom!
Of that ilk must be proven.
Yes, of course. And I'm saying it has been. The UN rapporteur says it's passed the threshold of genocide way back in February. So it has been.
Look, I think I'm right in saying that they passed the threshold for a plausible risk of genocide. Is that not?
Plausible risk? Yes, my dear. My dick was hard and wet. The floor was wet. It tripped up and my dick ended up inside her.
Correct?
Yes. It's slightly more than that now. That was then. That was an earlier judgment this year. Since then.
But forgive me, has that been proven in court?
No, not yet. It hasn't been proven in court yet. If you wait for that, Gaza will be ended. The whole point about the ICJ is it's saying, actually, there is a plausible case.
Challenge him again. Challenge him again.
Have a hearing on it.
Well, fine. But then should we just put all people accused of murder straight away? We don't have to wait for the court case. Why wait for that?
No, well, listen, because the murder that's happened is rather different. This is continuing
make your money
actions, which I think anyone who's in the law who is asked, do the actions of the Israeli government and the statements they've made about why they're doing it, not all of them, but cabinet members, the deputy speaker of the Knesset and so on, have made very clear that they have an ambition. The ambition is to erase Gaza. Now, they're saying that. I don't have to prove it. They're admitting they're saying that. Plus, they've killed 35,000 people, mostly women, children, and children, that is young children, infants and babies, have been targeted by snipers. They're not, posing a threat of any kind whatsoever. And I'm saying there's enough evidence there for there to be a not only a plausible case, but a case, and I'm afraid to say, that the evidence is not only clear, well over the threshold at the moment, and therefore that's why there should be no more arms. In order to prevent arms being exported and the licenses being given, you don't have to prove genocide. You're asking me to do it, but actually it doesn't have to be proved in court before that happens. If there is a risk, that's the test, that what you're supplying to a government is liable to be used in the way that it is being used, you're committing an offence. So,
that might be the case. And listen, there's a lot of evidence. We talk about it at length on this channel every single day.
Now, this is when you can be arguing, he says so much but yet so little. Yeah, but a lot of evidence for more. genocide. It's fucking hilarious when you see this shit happening in the news.
And we hold all those to account that come on from both sides. So I'm not disputing that. But earlier in this interview, you implied it had been proven that genocide...
Yeah, get back to the genocide. He said it's been proven there's a genocide.
...had been committed, which is what
I'm saying
pushing back on. I'm not saying you need to prove that. You implied that, and I was pushing back on that, which I think you've now made clear in your answer has not been proven, even if...
You made clear in your answer has not been proven. You're putting words in his mouth there, Sadsack.
If, based on your letter, you're saying that a sufficient risk of it is enough for international law to imply that there shouldn't be arms sales. My final point, just very quickly, is just stepping back again from the big picture here, which is that the UK's arms sales...
Stepping back again from the big picture. This guy's fucking flapping, man. But he's paid to look cool and still deliver the fucking shit he's getting told in his ear and the teleprompter, but underneath the desk he's like... You can hear it, it's hilarious.
Account for less than 1% or so, based on the numbers that our military expert was discussing earlier, to what Israel gets overall. And I do just raise the question again, the extent to which this is an issue for the UK government, if you're really talking about pure legal arguments versus it being something that's really much more about what the US is doing, providing them the vast majority of their military equipment, and whether otherwise this is more of a political debate for the UK, not a legal one.
No, because we supply less than the other countries, other than the States, Germany also. So we may not be providing the same amount. However, it's not limited to munitions. In other words, what the International Court has said in the past is that you must take all reasonable action in order to prevent a plausible genocide, or as I put it, well over the threshold type of situation. So I'm talking about funding, what corporations are doing, what banks are doing. In other words, any support, and including a bilateral treaty, we have to, it's all in the letter, we have to re-examine our relationship with a state which is, in my view, committing genocide, a plausible case certainly, and it's well over the threshold. And so it's not just about arms, it's other ways in which they're being supported by the British government. And I think the bilateral treaty they were going to come to, or they've arrived at, coming into force, I think it's 2030, it's got to be re-examined as to whether we wish to be associated with a state that has no regard for international law.
We're out of time here. Michael Mansfield, thank you.
Get them off! Get them off!
You're watching Sky News Today. Still to come, more on the war between Israel
and Hamas. Man, that's it, mate. You take a deep breath. Now let's go and see what they say after this. Are they going to touch on any of his good points? Let's see what they've edited out yet.
We saw Satchworth going in, grabbing people.
You either live and become...
So let's see. We've just seen the live version, right? Now let's see what they leave out. Top of the hour news.
Frost, it's 11 o'clock. Your headlines. 3 former Supreme Court judges join hundreds of leading lawyers to warn the Prime Minister that arms exports to Israel are putting the UK in breach of international law. Woo! Rescuers search for dozens of people still missing after Taiwan's most powerful earthquake in a quarter of a century.
Right.
Airline passengers face another year of strict security rules after airports miss a deadline to ease restrictions on liquids on planes.
Helmets coming to get you and all that.
Farmers demand a guaranteed basic income to compensate for the loss of EU subsidies after Brexit. We go behind the bars of California's death row to see the...
I killed myself. Do you know I stabbed him?
More than 100 people evacuated.
Hello, Wilfred!
A very good morning to you. 3 former Supreme Court judges are among more than 600 leading lawyers who've warned the Prime Minister to stop sending arms to Israel. Rishi Sunak's been facing growing calls to rethink the UK's support for Israel following the deaths of 3 British aid workers in an Israeli military strike in Gaza on Monday. An open letter from the lawyers warns Mr Sunak that continued arms exports to Israel will put the UK in breach of international law. They say, quote, "We are concerned that the UK government is failing to discharge its international obligations. While we welcome the increasingly robust calls by your government for a cessation of fighting and the unobstructed entry to Gaza of humanitarian assistance, simultaneously to continue, to take two striking examples, the sale of weapons and weapons systems to Israel and to maintain threats of suspending UK aid to UNRWA, falls significantly short of your government's obligations under international law." Well, I spoke to one of the signatories and asked him why he's backing the letter.
I'm committed to the idea of ensuring what I've really spent my life doing, which is upholding the rule of law and trying to get it implemented and enforced. That's why I've done it. For me, anyway, a moral issue. One of the reasons I became a lawyer was, in fact, to prevent gunboat diplomacy, to prevent, beating each other's brains out. You try and settle matters in a much more civilized way. That's the object of the exercise. Well, otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it. So I don't see it as political with a big P. I see it as political with a small one, combined with moral.
Genocide.
Political correspondent Rob Powell. Rob,
this is how they do it. That is how they do it. They cut shit out and use only the shit they want. That is how they do it. No mention of the genocide from a judge. That is how they do it. Sad and pathetic. And if you've got your eyes open, if you're awake, not woke, if you're awake, you can see that shit. Everybody can see that shit if you just know how to do it. You could, when I was listening to it, and as I said, that was 11 o'clock. That's 18 minutes by 11 now. So this has all just happened, and I clocked it, man, and I was watching it, I was listening to it, and I was like, that's interesting as fuck. And I could see the guy pure panicking. As soon as he mentioned genocide, he's like, no, I mate, that's welfare imbalanced. You're letting the guy fucking have his point of view. His point of view as a judge is that it's provable beyond a reasonable doubt that Israel is committing genocide inside Gaza. And you're a wee stupid Wilfred talking head motherfucker, like some sort of wee media whore. You're not even you don't even write a column. You're not a journalist. You're just a talking head on fucking Wilfred. Anyway, I thought that was well worth a watching. I can't see it. Anyway, the sun's out. I'm going to go scurry into the sun like a little lizard and get my solar warming done. Get it? Got it. That is how they do it. That is how they done it. Clips. And remember, citizens, always subscribe. Hit the notification bell as well. And $19.95 plus shipping and handling will keep you out of hell.